Okay, let's unpack this. Remember being in high school, those like endless days, class after class. Sometimes you just felt like your brain was totally full by what, 10 a.m., right?
Oh, definitely. It could feel like a marathon.
Now imagine this. What if you could wrap up all your core learning for the day, really get the essential stuff down in just 2 hours?
2 hours, it sounds, well, almost impossible compared to the norm.
Exactly. Less like school, more like some kind of superpower, isn't it?
It certainly challenges everything we've kind of accepted about high school education. People hear 2 hours and probably think, how could that possibly work?
Totally. And that's the really fascinating question driving our deep dive today. We're looking into this innovative, maybe even revolutionary idea, the 2-hour learning model for high schoolers.
Yeah, we've gathered a bunch of sources, articles, some research reports, quotes from people actually involved.
Right, to get a handle on what it is, where it's happening, and maybe most importantly, what are the upsides and the potential downsides.
Our mission here is pretty much to walk you through all this material, pull out the key takeaways, the insights. We want to help you understand the thinking behind this really bold approach and why it's starting to cause a stir.
And believe us, you're going to hear some things that might surprise you. We're talking academic results that honestly seem almost too good to be true for such short days.
And how technology, especially AI, plays this absolutely central role.
Yeah, and how it might change things for student well-being, life outside the classroom. It's pretty wide-ranging.
So we'll guide you through what the sources are telling us, painting a picture of this alternative path and why it could be important for the future of learning.
Okay, so let's dive in. What exactly is this 2-hour learning model? Because like you said, it's not just, clocking in for 2 hours and heading home, right?
No, absolutely not. The sources are really clear on that. It's not just about cutting hours, reducing seat time. It's a fundamental break from that traditional school day structure, which, let's be honest, was mostly set up for a different era, an industrial age. Kind of assumes kids need to be in a building for 7, 8 hours.
Right. That old idea that time in a chair equals learning, this model flips that completely.
It does. The core idea, based on the sources, is to take the most crucial instruction, the real learning time, and condense it into about 2 hours of really intense, focused, purpose-driven work.
So cutting out the fluff, maybe? Focusing on mastery?
Exactly. Stripping away the inefficiencies and zeroing in on mastering the core material.
And how do they actually do that in just 2 hours? What are the mechanics?
Well, it means totally reimagining the school day's flow. Forget long, passive lectures or, busy work. Students are in these focused learning bursts. The sources describe classes as lively, highly personalized, often based on where each student is at, not just teaching to the middle.
And this is where the tech comes in big time, right? That's what the sources emphasize.
Indispensable, according to the sources. Often powered by adaptive learning platforms, AI tutors, that kind of thing.
So, like, instead of one worksheet for everyone, the system adjusts. Harder questions if you're getting it, more help if you're stuck.
Precisely that. This personalized, tech-driven thing aims to boost understanding, help kids retain information way more efficiently than a one-size-fits-all class.
Okay.
It focuses hard on core subjects, essential skills. And there's a real goal of stopping that burnout you get from sitting through hours of classes that maybe aren't grabbing you.
There's a quote from Mackenzie Price. She co-founded Alpha School in Austin, a big example here.
Right, alpha comes up a lot.
She says that's the beauty of what AI technology and adaptive app learning enables, providing that personalized learning experience for students.
It sounds like the tech isn't just a tool, it's like the engine making this whole different approach possible.
Yeah, and what's interesting is how this very modern tech connects to older ideas, progressive education ideas.
Oh, like the focus on quality over quantity, letting students work at their own pace. The sources mentioned it echoes principles from things like Montessori. That's been around for ages.
Huh? Interesting connection.
But now, with these advanced adaptive platforms, AI achieving that deep personalization and efficiency for core subjects in such a short time, it's actually becoming feasible, maybe even scalable.
So an old idea, student-centered learning, but like supercharged with today's tech. Okay, so where is this actually happening? Is it just a theory or are schools really running this way?
Oh, they are. It's not widespread yet, definitely not the norm. But the sources point to innovative schools, specialized academies. places that are intentionally breaking the mold.
Places designed to mix targeted enrichment with really solid academics.
Exactly. Let's look at some specific examples mentioned in the sources.
Yeah, where can we see this 2-hour model in action?
Okay, so Alpha School in Austin, Texas is a key one, especially for younger kids. They use that AI-driven instruction for core academics in the morning.
The 2-hour block.
Right. And then, according to a news report we looked at, the rest of their day. It's workshops on crucial life skills, public speaking, teamwork, even entrepreneurship.
So intense academics first, then broader skills. Makes sense.
And they've extended this to Alpha High School, also in Austin. Same idea. Accelerated academics, but often tied into real-world projects too.
Okay, that sounds really relevant for teens thinking about careers and stuff. Any other types of schools using it?
Yeah, specialized places too.
Yeah.
There's Texas Sports Academy. They need to balance really intense athletic training with getting a good education.
Ah, so the compressed academics free up time for sports.
Exactly. They can hit their academics hard in that short window and still have plenty of time for practice, training, physical ed. Lets them excel in both.
That's a practical application? Tailoring the day?
Then there's GT School for gifted and talented students. This model lets them deliver advanced stuff tailored to each kid's pace. They can really challenge students, focus on critical thinking, without being stuck in a standard class period. Bright kids can move faster.
Lets them fly if they're ready.
Right. And one more mention is Next Gen Academy. This one connects student passions, specifically gaming and tech, with academics.
Oh, interesting. How does that work?
They use the 2-hour core learning for the basics, the required subjects, efficiently. Then students have lots of time to really dive into their tech and gaming interests, building skills there too.
You know, what strikes me is how flexible it seems. It's not just for one type of student. General learners, athletes, gifted kids, tech enthusiasts.
Yeah, I think that points to the underlying idea, achieving high-quality, efficient learning. That seems to apply across different goals and different kids. It's less about the setting and more about the approach.
Okay. The big question then, does it actually work academically? Can kids really learn what they need in just 2 hours of core instruction a day?
Well, the sources present some pretty compelling evidence suggesting, yeah, there are significant benefits, starting right with academic performance. The idea is that those intense, focused periods let students really grapple with and master the core stuff. And because it's personalized, often with that adaptive tech, engagement stays high, understanding gets deeper.
Is there research beyond just anecdotes from these schools, like broader studies?
Yes, definitely. There's a growing amount of research, especially on personalized learning and mastery-based models, which share a lot of DNA with this 2-hour approach.
Okay.
For instance, a big RAND Corporation study found students in personalized learning setups made greater academic progress than their peers in traditional settings.
Greater progress.
Yeah, and what's really key is that lower-performing students in those models show big gains, often catching up to or even going past the national average. And the benefits seem to build up over time.
Wow, that's huge, especially if it helps close achievement gaps.
Absolutely. And then you have real-world district examples like Lindsay Unified School District. They shifted to a competency-based model, meaning kids advance when they master skills, not just by time spent in class.
Right, based on what they know, not the calendar.
Exactly. And the results were dramatic. Proficiency rates nearly doubled. Performance in English language arts jumped from the 33rd percentile to the 87th compared to similar districts. Graduation rates hit almost 95%.
Okay, numbers like that.
Yeah.
They definitely make you pay attention. What about the schools specifically doing the 2-hour thing, like Alpha?
Alpha's results, as reported by Mackenzie Price and mentioned in news reports, are particularly striking. She says their students outperform peers in traditional schools, even with the shorter academic day.
Outperform them.
Yeah, with progress putting them in the top 2% nationally. Their own tracking suggests Alpha students are learning roughly twice as fast as typical students. Price is quoted saying, "Under 2-hour learning, our results are incredible."
Okay, I gotta push back a little. Those results sound almost, well, too good. Did the sources mention any caveats, like could these be short-term gains or only work for certain kids or maybe only with really good implementation?
That's a really important point and fair. The sources do stress that results, especially with personalized learning, really depend on how well it's done. The RAND study highlighted the implementation quality is key.
So it's not automatic.
No, it takes careful planning, the right tech, trained teachers. Alpha's results seem great, suggesting they're doing it well. But yeah, research on this specific 2-hour plus intensive tech combo is still relatively new for the long term. But The Harvard and Stanford studies on AI tutors, which are a core part of this model, independently show students using them do learn more and score higher. So that backs up the mechanism, the idea that targeted, instant AI support can really accelerate learning.
Okay, so the research supports the pieces, the components of the model, even if the whole 2-hour package needs more long-term study. Makes sense. What about outside of pure academics? Student well-being. Traditional high school can be such a pressure cooker.
Yeah, and this is an area where the 2-hour model really seems to shine, according to the sources. By focusing on efficient learning instead of just long hours, it directly tackles the high stress levels many students experience.
How? Just by having fewer hours of class?
Partly that, yeah.
Yeah.
A lighter academic load, in terms of formal instruction time, just frees up a significant chunk of the day. Time for personal interests, sports, exercise, just downtime. All stuff that's vital for mental health, preventing burnout.
And the personalized learning itself probably helps with engagement, which boosts well-being too.
Absolutely. That Harvard study on AI tutors, users self-reported significantly more engagement and motivation to learn. It makes sense, right? If the work feels tailored to you and you get help right away, it's less frustrating, more empowering.
Yeah, I can see that.
And look at Lindsay Unified again, their school climate index, which measures stuff like how supported and engaged students feel. It jumped from the 52nd percentile way up to the 97th after they changed their model.
97th percentile. That's incredible.
It really suggests a shift in the whole school experience.
We actually heard from an Alpha student, Elle Christine. She talked about her friends in traditional schools being so much homework, they're so stressed out, and they're just miserable.
Yeah, that quote was powerful.
But at Alpha, she said, "We finish our academics in 3 hours and spend the rest of our time working on passion projects. It's awesome." That paints a really clear contrast.
It absolutely does. It brings home how this could genuinely improve a student's day-to-day life, reduce that feeling of being constantly overwhelmed.
Which leads right into the next benefit opportunities for enriched experiences and just plain efficiency. If academics are done quickly, what fills that time?
Mackenzie Price summed it up nicely. Kids don't have to sit in class doing academics for 6 hours a day. They can crush their academics in only 2 hours and develop life skills the rest of the day.
Crushing academics. I like that.
The efficiency comes from that personalized, tech-driven approach. Students work at their own speed, get help exactly when they need it.
Like that 9-year-old Alpha student, Marshall, talking about the AI tool.
Yes, exactly. He said, if you get a question wrong, the app gives you an explanation, and that helps you. That instant personalized feedback loop, it's incredibly efficient compared to, waiting for a teacher to grade something or answer a question in a big class.
Makes sense. So what do they do with all this freed up time?
Pursue other things, internships, community service, arts, sports, personal projects, like Elle, the student who's developing her own AI app.
Wow. So it allows for a much more kind of holistic development beyond just the core subjects.
Seems like it. And the sources also mentioned strengthen family and community ties.
How so?
Simply put, less time mandated in the school building means more potential for quality time at home.
Yeah.
Or chances for shared meals, family stuff, getting involved in the community.
There was that great quote from a parent, Scott Jensen. He said he was worried at first about sending his kids to Alpha, thought they might lose a year.
Right. The initial skepticism.
But then he concluded, it's working. It's working for all the kids at the school. Hearing that from a parent, that's pretty compelling.
It really is. It shows how academic efficiency might create this positive ripple effect. More time and energy for well-being, diverse experiences, family connections.
Okay, so we've got the definition, where it's happening, some really compelling benefits. But let's be real, implementing something this different, it can't be easy. What are the hurdles, the challenges?
No, you're absolutely right. It's not simple. The sources definitely acknowledge key concerns. One big one is just covering the required curriculum, fitting everything essential into that tight 2-hour block. That takes incredibly careful planning and relies heavily on those efficient delivery methods we talked about.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what about the teachers? Their role must change completely.
Dramatically. Teacher adaptation and workload are huge factors. Teachers need a lot of support, a lot of professional development to shift from being the main lecturer to more of a facilitator, a guide, using tech effectively, providing targeted help. It's a different skill set.
Right, more coaching, less broadcasting.
Pretty much. And then there's just getting everyone else on board.
Yeah.
Parents, other educators, the wider community.
Convincing people this isn't just less school.
Exactly. Perception and acceptance are critical. You need to show it's rigorous, that it works, That takes transparent communication, sharing the data, building trust. There was that quote from John Payne, a warning about personalized learning.
Right. People should not necessarily buy into the hype.
Yeah, it underscores that you need solid evidence and realistic expectations, not just buzzwords.
So, how are the schools that are doing this successfully trying to overcome these hurdles? What are the strategies?
Well, the sources point to a few key things. First, an absolute laser focus on quality over quantity. Curriculum design has to be super tight, focused on core competencies, delivered efficiently.
No wasted time. And supporting the teachers is vital, you said.
Non-negotiable, robust professional development is essential, equipping them for this new way of teaching. And alongside that, really engaging communication with everyone involved, parents, students, the community, being open about successes and challenges builds that necessary trust.
And the tech. It sounds like it's not just a nice to have, it's fundamental to making the efficiency aspect work.
It seems foundational, yeah. Using those the adaptive platforms, the digital tools, effectively that's what enables the personalized pacing and immediate feedback within that short time frame. The tech handles a lot of the mechanics, freeing up the teacher for that higher level guidance.
Okay, so putting it all together, looking ahead, are these early successes, these examples like Alpha and Lindsay, pointing towards this becoming more common? What's the future look like?
Well, the early reports and data we have from these pioneers are consistently positive. We're seeing the improved academics, the higher engagement, the better well-being we discussed.
But is there enough solid long-term research yet to say, yes, this specific 2-hour AI-powered model is definitely the way forward?
The sources suggest that research specifically on this radical combination, the very short day plus intensive tech AI, is still developing. We need more time to see the long-term effects.
Okay.
However, like we touched on, the studies on the underlying principles, personalized learning, mastery-based approaches, AI tutors, they do show promise. They provide a strong theoretical reason for why this could work and why it seems to be working in these initial cases.
So the building blocks look solid and the early results are encouraging.
Exactly. The Brookings Institution summarized it by saying personalized learning continues to look promising. But yeah, more specific long-term research on the 2-hour model itself is needed.
You know, it feels like this model really taps into broader trends we see everywhere else, wanting things more flexible, more personalized, more efficient.
It really does. It aligns with that shift. As the technology keeps getting better and as we get more data from these schools, it feels like wider adoption is, well, increasingly plausible, especially as people look for alternatives to the stress and sometimes, frankly, the disengagement of the traditional school model.
And for it to really scale up, it would need support from higher ups, right? Not just individual schools deciding to try it.
Oh, absolutely. You need buy-in from leaders, policymakers. That can mean rethinking rules about required seat time, finding funding models that encourage this kind of innovation, and really supporting research into these alternative approaches that focus on effective learning and student well-being.
Okay, this has been a fascinating deep dive into what feels like a potentially transformative idea in education. If you had to boil it down, what's the main takeaway?
I think the main takeaway is that this 2-hour learning model is a really bold challenge to how we've always done school. It proposes that highly focused, personalized instruction, often supercharged by tech like AI as we see at places like Alpha, can yield truly impressive results.
Right.
The early signs, backed by related research, point to big potential wins. Not just academically, with some kids learning way faster and hitting top scores, but also for student happiness, engagement, and just having a richer, more balanced life outside of academics.
It really makes you think that maybe the key isn't just how long kids sit in class, but how they learn during that time, the quality, the intensity, the personalization. Rethinking that could change everything.
It really could. It prompts a bigger reflection, doesn't it? Consider how prioritizing that deep, focused learning over just logging hours might not only shift academic outcomes, but could fundamentally reshape the whole experience of growing up, developing skills, finding passions. It makes you wonder, what parts of your own learning, or even your work life, could benefit from stripping away the noise and focusing on intense, purposeful bursts, maybe with the right tools to help?